So today, obviously, we have the lovely Clara Downton from Downton Mortgages and Financial Services, of which she's the owner. Their core business is mortgages and related insurance. She works UK wide, but can do expat. I don't know what expat is, but
Expatriates, so people living abroad that are UK citizens.
thank you very much. I now know what expat is. So, a couple of bits about Clara. Her prized possession is a dance medal from Bali. How she relaxes? Dancing, except when she's competing. Something that makes Clara laugh. Now, there's lots of things, but there's nothing better than having a laugh about past events. Yeah, idiocracies with good friends. And finally, a type of music that Clara likes is anything she can dance to. Hopefully, she will sleep well tonight so she can dance the weekend away. So please put your hands together for Clara Downton.
Yeah, so Downton Mortgages and Financial Services has been running a little while, and I've kind of done a couple of these presentations before. So I've kind of usually talk quite a bit about me, but as you can tell from that, dancing has been quite predominant for me lately. So I thought I would focus a little bit less on kind of me today and give you a bit more sort of case studies into clients that I've helped and things like that. So we'll briefly touch on kind of me and who I am, but yes, I spend a lot of time sort of talking more about the clients that I've helped. So me, I live in Stortford. We moved there when I was 1. I've got 3 siblings, an older sister, a younger sister, and my baby brother, which is Shannon's husband, who you all know, because you work for me. Worked in the city for about 16 years before leaving to go for mortgages, and in 2017 I started as a mortgage advisor for a local firm before I set up on my own 6 years ago. I don't really know where the last 6 years have gone, but there we go. So, what I thought I would do is so this is our group dance that we run the network for in Bali. Now the only downside of this video is I am right over here, so look at about 30 seconds and you do see me. But yeah, we did quite a lot of training for this and did actually win the medal for this out in Bali, so it's definitely worth putting in all the effort. There she is. Yes. So yeah, I love my dancing, and it is this amazing thing to do. Often I'm just dancing as a pair with people, so it's quite nice to do a team group and actually sort of work. There was people from Hong Kong, Tokyo, sort of various different places. We coordinated sort of before the event, and then had our final practices 2 days before this, and managed to pull it all together pretty well. So yeah, we were all quite chuffed with that progress. So yeah, the business. Business is me and Shannon. We've been working together now for, I think it's 3 years, which is crazy. That's gone by so fast. Shannon looks at the insurance side of things, but she also helps me with a lot of the administrative kind of things. So it's quite a good partnership, just working together with all of that. And kind of the sort of things that we can cover. We can look at residential mortgages, we can look at all sorts of buy-to-let mortgages, and also the equity release mortgages, which I touched quite a lot on in my last presentation. So although I'm going to talk about it as one of my case studies, it's slightly less of a focus of what I'm presenting on today. So just to talk quickly about equity release mortgages. They are for over 55, although there is one of the options for those who are over 50. Generally, I recommend equity release more where people are a little bit older, because in many cases you pay a slightly higher level of interest. The plan is that it's kind of for the longer term, and they can either have the interest paid or you can roll them up. Where you roll them up, if they're a younger person, then that will use up a lot of the equity. So it's something that needs to be considered carefully. But for the right person, it can be a really great option. The other thing to sort of mention with them is usually you'll get a relatively low loan to value. So you'll only get about 25 to 30% of the value of your property usually. So where people have interest only, sometimes that can be a challenge where the property value hasn't increased a huge amount, because obviously if you're clearing an interest only mortgage and you've got a 50% mortgage at that point, that's not going to work from an equity release point of view in most cases. So it's things to be considered, but things that I will talk through with clients if it's a potential fit with them. So that's lifetime mortgages. So to talk a little bit on sort of some case studies. The first is an equity release client that I've had. So I had a lady recently. She'd been a very lovely mother. She had gifted an awful lot to her family and got them on the property ladder, and then realised that at the age of 70, nearly 72, she actually didn't have anything left, and she was struggling to pay the bills every month. She was just getting state pension, so she was getting £900 a month. And being honest, when we went through her expenditure, she expended about £3,000 a month. So there was quite a big shortfall there. So the first task was just to help her understand her level of spending. And she was honest with me. She'd never really sat down and done any kind of budget. They'd always had enough money as a couple. But now she hadn't had her husband around for the last 10 years, and she just kind of carried on where she was. And it was a little bit of a wake-up call to her that actually she couldn't do that. But she did still want to have a better quality of life than £900 a month would give her. So we sat down and talked about the debts that she had at this point, the amount of money that she needed in the short term to get herself back on an even keel, and the amount that, after kind of taking into consideration some of the sensible changes she could make in her life, that she could comfortably get to. And then we worked out a drawdown that would give her roughly about £1,000 a month, just over, every month for the next 10 years. And that way she knew that, number one, she could clear right now, get herself on a better even keel, and then she would be able to afford to live a good quality of life for the foreseeable future. And she felt by the time she was in her early 80s that actually she wouldn't need to spend so much. So that was her. Another example of kind of general mortgages, I've seen a lot of clients recently wanting to buy over their landlords. Landlords seem to be quite keen to sell up on their property. So we've been looking at cases where, okay, fine, you want to be able to afford this new property. But I had one client come to me recently and they're like, oh yeah, the mortgage advisor said to me that we should just do it in my partner's name. But actually, I'm putting in all the equity. Well, why are they saying that? Well, I don't earn much, and therefore I'm not great for going on mortgage. Disagree. There are ways of doing it. There are probably lenders who will consider it. If that's a priority for you, that's what our requirements should be. So we looked at the different options, and yes, okay, there were slightly cheaper options that maybe they could do with just him, but there were good options with both of them. So we've got that mortgage in and processing, and hopefully soon they'll be buying their rental property. So it's really about sort of making sure that I listen to clients. What do they want? What do they need? And how can I best get that objective rather than telling them what they should be doing? So that's really how I work and my objectives when I'm working with clients. So that's just a couple of case studies. We can help with certain protections. I always mention Howard can do things like that as well. And some of the insurances, obviously, James can help you as well. I make sure that when I'm giving people advice on mortgages, they also understand the likely protections that they should take, which is why it's part of our business too. But we work with the various different people who can also help on these kind of things. So a reminder, I will have a no obligation chat with anybody who needs it. Doesn't matter if it goes anywhere or not. I like to make sure I'm trying to help people. I only charge my fees when I actually go forward to application with people, and I'm very clear as to how much it will be and what it will be. And if your rent is expiring in the next 6 months, I do recommend starting talking at this point. And that is really me as Shannon's daughter. Sorry, I think I sped up quite a bit there.
Question.
Question?
Sure.
Do you anticipate a problem for buy-to-let mortgages with the new rental reform act? Because mortgage companies always want to see an AST of 12 months. We're no longer going to have ASTs, it's all going to be periodical. There's going to be no guarantees of rental income into the future. It's months away and it's gone.
I actually find less and less that lenders are actually asking for the AST.
Okay.
They want to know that there is an agreement in place, but often they will use their their valuers to say how much the rental in that area would be. So I just think they'll rely more and more on that. I do think there'll probably be changes that will happen in their approaches, but I don't think that we'll fundamental changes that.
Clara, have you ever is there anybody that you would actually just say, don't even try to get a mortgage, or would you always face the challenge and sort of take it on, even if people have got like bad credit or things like that?
I have had clients come to me before who've been told that they can't get a mortgage. And I just say, it might be the case, but in many cases there is a solution. It's just whether or not somebody's willing to pay the cost of that solution. So I actually spoke to somebody last night, and he's only 1 year into a new business, done quite well in his first year. Wife works part-time, got currently an interest-only mortgage, want to keep payments minimal. I was like, but didn't like the option coming from their existing provider. So I said, right, let me have a quick look. I'll give you an indication of whether I think there may be other options, and if not, just stick with who you've got. So I really quickly just plugged in the numbers. So I was like, actually, there could be, a lender that actually would be a better rate and might be an option. So we're going to explore it further. So where I'm not sure, I will try and just kind of do a quick dip my toes in, just have a look and see whether I think there could be an opportunity. And then I'll just go back to the client and say, or it's worth giving me more. So very rarely will I give an outright no, but I will sometimes kind of give indications to the client that I don't think it's going to be a straightforward, easy yes, that's the thing.
Last one.
Changing inheritance tax and the inclusion on pensions on this phase probably would have made more people give money away. And that probably means more equity release, quite a lot more equity release. Do you think the rates will come down as more people do it and they need to become more competitive?
They're actually relatively competitive at the moment. The last one that I did, the client's rate was about 6%, which when you think about, normal rates are kind of high 3s, low 4s at the moment anyway, and some are in the early 5s, actually 6% for a lifetime mortgage isn't ridiculous. Yes, I do think they will get more competitive again. There was a point when everything was really low 4 where I could actually get people 3 to 4% kind of thing. So they aren't as badly priced as people think they are. And for the right person, I really do think they're a great opportunity, especially if they do something like a drawdown, where they're delaying when they pay the interest, but giving them the options for the future. So, such a roundabout way of answering your question, but I do think we are going to see a lot more equity release as people really realise the opportunities they can give them and the ways they can potentially save for in the future.
Clara, thank you very much.